May 23rd, 2024. SWAT teams storm a $26 million mansion in Southwest Ranches, Florida. The guy who gave us Beautiful Girls and collabed with Justin Bieber just got sentenced to 3.5 years in federal prison. He stole over $1 million in luxury goods that he never actually paid for. And he had help. Mama Kingston was running point on the whole operation. This is how Sean Kingston almost pulled off the perfect scam. Until it all came crashing down. Let's rewind to 2007. YouTube was barely 2 years old. The iPhone had just been invented. And a chunky teenager from Jamaica via Miami dropped a song that would change his life forever. Beautiful Girls wasn't just a hit. Oh no, it was a phenomenon. The song went double platinum faster than you could say suicidal. Yeah, that was the controversial lyric that got it banned from some radio stations, which only made teenagers want to hear it more. Marketing genius? Maybe. But mostly just dumb luck. Within months, Sean Kingston went from sleeping on his mom's couch to buying her a house. The song hit #1 in multiple countries, racked up over 1 billion views across platforms, and turned Keyshawn Anderson, his real name by the way, into Sean Kingston, international superstar. He was 17 years old and making more money in a week than most people see in a lifetime. The kind of money that makes you feel invincible. The kind of money that makes you think it'll never stop flowing. By 2010, he'd graduated from one-hit wonder to legitimate celebrity. How do we know? Because Justin Bieber, at the peak of his bowl-cut powers, agreed to collaborate with him on Eeny Meeny. Bieber's team didn't do favors, so this was no charity. This was a business decision based on Sean's proven star power. The collaboration hit the top 10 in multiple countries and seemed to cement Sean's place in pop music's upper echelon. He was photographed with everyone. He performed at NBA games. He dated models whose names you'd recognize. The cars got more exotic. The chains got heavier. And when we say heavy, we mean his neck probably needed physical therapy. One chain alone was reportedly worth $300,000. His watch collection? Don't even get us started. And houses, plural. Because why have one mansion when you can have 3? But in 2010, standing next to Bieber, dripping in diamonds with multiple songs on the radio, Sean Kingston felt untouchable. The money would keep coming, the hits would keep charting, the lifestyle would keep expanding. Why wouldn't it? He was Sean Kingston. He made it. He was set for life. He was not, in fact, set for life. By 2015, something interesting was happening in Sean Kingston's career. Well, interesting is one word for it. Terrible might be more accurate. His last album had flopped hard. His singles weren't even charting in the top 100. The same clubs that used to pay him 6 figures to show up and wave were now offering 4 figures, maybe, if he was lucky. But drive past Sean's house, any of his houses, and you'd never know it. The cars in the driveway still cost more than your college education. The party still raged every weekend with champagne that cost more per bottle than minimum wage workers make in a week. This is where Mama Kingston enters our story properly. Janice Turner was Sean's manager, his advisor, and as it turns out, his partner in crime. Now, calling her experienced in financial fraud would be like calling Gordon Ramsay experienced in cooking. This lady had already served 14 months in federal prison for bank fraud back in 2006. That's right, guys. While her son was recording Beautiful Girls, Mama was finishing a stretch for stealing over $160,000. She'd filed false loan applications, created fake documents, and walked away with cash that wasn't hers. Sound familiar? It should, because she was about to teach her son the family business. The plan they hatched was brilliantly stupid, or stupidly brilliant. Depends on your perspective. They wouldn't downsize the lifestyle. That would be admitting defeat. Instead, they'd maintain it through what we'll generously call creative financing. Just straight up, documented, inexcusable fraud. Sean still had fame, not chart-topping sold-out arena fame, but enough name recognition that people knew who he was. In the age of social media, where followers equal currency and blue checks equal credibility, Sean Kingston still had both. He had millions of Instagram followers, he had the verified badge, he had photos with actual celebrities, and of course, he had something economists call information asymmetry. Vendors knew who he was, but they didn't know his bank account was running on fumes. The jewelry store should have known better. When Sean Kingston walked into their high-end establishment, he wanted a $285,000 Audemars Piguet perpetual calendar watch. Not to buy, that would require money. He wanted to collaborate. You know, for exposure. The kind of exposure that definitely pays rent and definitely isn't the most overused scam in the influencer playbook. But Sean didn't promise vague exposure. He name-dropped Bieber. He talked about upcoming music videos, he showed his Instagram following, and then, this is the genius part, he actually initiated a wire transfer. Right there in the store, he pulled out his phone and showed them a confirmation screen. The jeweler, seeing a wire transfer initiated from a verified celebrity, handed over the watch. Why wouldn't they? Wire transfers are irreversible, safe as houses. Except the wire transfer was reversed the next day. Insufficient funds. But by then, Sean was already posting wrist shots on Instagram. And when the jeweler called, Mama Kingston was ready. She texted them a receipt, a completely fabricated photoshopped receipt showing payment completed. When they called again, she had excuses. Bank errors, processing delays, the classic check is in the mail, except for the digital age. They strung the jeweler along for weeks, then months, until finally the jeweler realized they'd been played. Sean repeated the same pattern with more jewelers. In the attention economy, fame functions as a soft currency. People accept celebrity as collateral because they assume fame equals money. It's a logical fallacy that con artists have exploited since Hollywood was invented. Interestingly, social media has democratized this con. You don't need actual fame anymore, just the appearance of it. Verified badges, follower counts, and photos with real celebrities become tools of deception. Sean wasn't selling jewelry or promises. He was selling proximity to fame, and people were buying. Of all Sean's frauds, this one might be the most audacious. Because stealing jewelry is one thing. Jewelers deal with theft, they have insurance, they know the risks. But this was different. This was personal. Verver Entertainment specializes in the kind of home electronics that most of us can't even imagine. Sean reached out in September 2023 with a proposition. He needed their biggest setup, a 232-inch TV for his home. But get this, he didn't want to buy it, he wanted to partner. Once again, he dropped Bieber's name and promised to film promotional videos for the company with singer Justin Bieber in exchange for a lower down payment on the entertainment system. The company should have known better. Should have asked for full payment up front. Should have done a deeper credit check. Should have done literally anything except what they did, which was install more than $110,000 worth of equipment based on nothing but promises, and a $30,000 down payment that Sean probably scraped together by selling his last legitimate asset. The installation happened, and for a while, Sean lived his fantasy. But Kingston did not make the remaining payments on the TV or promote the company alongside Bieber. Verver made several attempts to get the remaining payments from Kingston, but was unsuccessful. Finally, Verver Entertainment did what the others should have done sooner. They sued, and not just a quiet civil suit. They went public. They contacted the media, they posted about it online, and that's when the house of cards didn't just fall, it exploded. This was the scam that broke the camel's back. Not because it was the biggest, the jewelry thefts were worth more. Not because it was the most brazen, the fake mansion showing took that prize. But because Verver Entertainment refused to be another silent victim. They refused to write it off as a loss. They refused to let celebrity shield a criminal. By May 2024, investigators had connected dots that Sean and his mother had practically drawn in neon. The fraud tally was huge. $500,000 in stolen jewelry, over $200,000 from Bank of America, $160,000 from an Escalade dealership, more than $100,000 from First Republic Bank, and $86,000 from a luxury bed manufacturer. Kingston's issues with jewelers reportedly date back to 2015, with claims involving unpaid watches valued over $350,000. The SWAT raid wasn't just for show, though it certainly was showy. When you're arresting someone for financial crimes, you usually don't need tactical teams and armored vehicles. A couple of detectives with a warrant usually does the trick. But investigators had learned something interesting about the Kingston family. They had a habit of destroying evidence. Remember, Mama Kingston was a convicted fraudster. She knew how investigators worked. She knew what prosecutors needed. And she'd been deleting texts, shredding documents, and wiping hard drives. Here's the twist. Sean wasn't even there for the most dramatic part. While SWAT was raiding his Florida mansion, he was in California preparing for a performance at a casino. That's right, even as the walls were closing in, even as investigators were building their case, Sean was still out there performing, still pretending everything was fine. The show, as they say, must go on. Until it doesn't. California police arrested him right after his performance. There's something poetically perfect about that. His last moment of fame, his last applause, followed immediately by handcuffs. He was extradited to Florida within days, where he sat in a federal holding cell, probably wondering how someone who once had Bieber on speed dial couldn't even make the $100,000 bail. The economic truth number 3 is the fraud schemes collapse when one victim refuses to stay silent. It's a collective action problem in reverse. You know, every individual victim thinks they're better off staying quiet, maybe recovering some money privately, avoiding embarrassment. But when one breaks ranks, when one goes public, the entire network effect reverses. Suddenly, silence becomes suspicious. Other victims come forward, patterns emerge, and what looked like isolated incidents becomes a criminal conspiracy. The trial was over before it started, not because of some legal technicality or plea deal, but because Sean and his mother had done something incredibly stupid. They documented everything. Every fraud, every lie, every fake receipt. The prosecution's evidence was devastating in its simplicity. They had texts from Sean to his mother. "I told you to make a fake receipt," he wrote in one. "So it looks like the transfer will be there in a couple of days." The defense tried to argue, saying, Kingston still had the mentality of a teenager and didn't know how to run his bank accounts or business. The judge wasn't buying it. Sean got 3.5 years in federal prison. But Mama Kingston got 5 years. The mastermind, the repeat offender, the one who should have known better because she'd literally been to prison for this exact thing before. The final economic truth, the one that ties this whole story together, is that fame is not financial security. In fact, fame without financial literacy is a recipe for disaster. When your entire identity is built on appearing wealthy, when your brand depends on a lifestyle you can't afford, when you mistake attention for assets, you're not building wealth. You're building a house of cards. And houses of cards have a way of collapsing spectacularly. Ironically, beautiful girls made him millions singing about how relationships never work out. Turns out he was right, just not about romance. His relationship with money, with fame, with reality. None of those worked out either. He went from having Bieber on speed dial to having a prison number. The story ends where it began, with handcuffs. But this time, there's no music video, just a middle-aged man in federal prison. 3.5 years is a long time to think about what went wrong. Sean Kingston almost got away with it. Almost. But in the end, the evidence was written in his own texts, documented in his own posts, and sealed by his own greed. You can't pay bills with followers. You can't deposit fame. And you definitely can't fake a wire transfer forever. Eventually, reality comes calling. Sometimes, it comes with a SWAT team. If you thought this story was crazy, Wait till you hear about the next celebrity scammer. Sean Kingston is small time compared to what's coming next. Subscribe.